you know, it started in the second season, but by the third season, the young women were very concerned about, and Shannen particularly, very concerned about set security and security at home, and there were incidents of people showing up at their houses. So you had a whole different kind of spin on what it means to be a celebrity.
Instant fame was really difficult for Shannen. She described later waking up and having the paparazzi trying to take pictures through her bedroom window. She had to buy a big guard dog to go jogging with to keep people away. She was hounded everywhere she went. Apparently at the high school where 90210 was filmed, girls would walk by her, just regular students would walk by her and scream at her for being a bitch because they identified her so much with Brenda at that point.
By the third season, Shannen's character Brenda Walsh had started a transformation.
Brenda Walsh's trajectory on 90210 was almost a reverse Cinderella story.
Brenda Walsh was the nice girl in the beginning of Beverly Hills 90210. She was the one who was resisting the constant urge to go shopping and materialism and all the rest of it. By the time she left 90210, of course, she was the ultimate diva. She was the one that seemed to be sprouting horns.
I played a character for 4 years who got a reputation as being, you know, not that nice of a person.
Oh, great. A hootenanny.
Brenda.
Oh, excuse me. I didn't mean to be rude.
As Brenda became the bad girl on 90210, Shannen became the bad girl in the tabloids. Reports of late-night partying with her co-star and partner in crime, Tori Spelling, began to pop up in the press. In 1992, Shannen was arrested and charged with battery for getting into a fight at an LA nightclub.
Shannen Doherty became, for a while, one of the most delicious people to consume in the gossip press. The stories we heard, and some of them are true, some of them probably aren't, but she did have this tendency to not go very long without doing something outrageous.
Well, on my way into work, I was listening to the radio, and I heard that the night before she had been out and tried to run over a paparazzi. We start the rehearsal. I said, Shannen, before we get started, I just want you to know I have a family. If there's anything I do at all in our work together today that makes you want to run me over, then let me know and I'll stop. So there's a huge pause, and she says, what you're doing now is making me want to run you over. So I said, I'll stop. And she laughed, and I laughed, and that was sort of the last of it.
At the age of 21, Shannen was being forced to grow up in the public eye. Every misstep scrutinized by the press.
Shannen has had a host of other problems, some of them financial. She was sued for writing roughly $31,000 worth of bad checks. She didn't pay rent in her apartment. She had many unpaid credit card bills.
Those first 3 or 4 years, I mean, people were spinning out of control. And often when people had to carry a lot of responsibility as a child, there's a tendency to kind of go a little wild and go a little too far off the deep end because they're saying, wait a minute, I never really had a childhood. I grew up, you know, before my time.
By its third season, Beverly Hills 90210 had 18 million viewers, and millions more would join by season 4. Shannen had to bear the weight of her newfound celebrity without letting it destroy her. And it seemed her biggest challenges were just beginning. 22-year-old Shannen Doherty was thrust into the spotlight with the raging success of teen drama, Beverly Hills 90210. By the third season, 90210 had won a Young Artist Award, a People's Choice Award, and was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best TV Series. The ratings increased with each season, and the tabloids fed hungry fans with the exploits of the show's brightest stars, especially Shannen Doherty. The pressure on Shannen was tremendous.
Around this time, this is when you see that picture of Shannen Doherty at a nightclub with Marky Mark, and they're both giving the finger to the camera. She began to have a contentious relationship with the press.
For some viewers, Shannen Doherty and her character Brenda Walsh continued to morph into one.
Brenda Walsh definitely became a character that people loved to hate. There was an I Hate Brenda newsletter.
And the I Hate Brenda newsletter was really a veiled I Hate Shannen Doherty newsletter. It was published regularly with all kinds of snippy inside stories about Shannon's bad behavior. And this was something that had to hurt Shannen when she knew that these kind of malicious stories were being circulated about her and being eagerly devoured by the public.
I do think that the amount of hatred people felt for Brenda Walsh was sort of out of proportion for any reason that they would feel it. I mean, yeah, her character was a little prissy at times and sort of entitled.
And what would you say if I told you Little Miss Popularity was on the pill?
I'd say that that's her business.
But all the characters on that show had these sides that were less than awesome.
Shannon's late-night escapades were frequently covered in the press, but by early 1993, developments in her love life would become the story of the day. Just before her 22nd birthday, Shannen was introduced to the young heir to the Max Factor cosmetics fortune, 28-year-old Dean Factor.
The two of them got engaged after dating only a short while in April of 1993 when they were on a kind of glamorous romantic trip to Hawaii with Tori Spelling. They took full advantage of the romantic setting, got carried away, he proposed, she said yes. But very quickly the relationship degenerated into violence. They both admitted later that they had slapped each other around quite a bit. Dean would show up to various parties and events and friends would notice scratches and bruises all over him.
Shannon's love life got even more complicated when she began work on a new film.
Shannen met former Brat Packer Judd Nelson on the set of the suspense thriller Blindfold in 1993 while she was living with Dean Factor. Some say that the tension and the trouble between her and Factor was aggravated by the fact that she was having an off-screen relationship with Judd Nelson while she was still living with Factor. Eventually, the violence between the two of them got so out of control, mostly coming from Shannen, that Dean had to seek a restraining order against her.
He said she pulled a gun on him at one point and said, "I will drop you."
He said that at one time she threw a log through a window in order to get into his house. He said that she tried to run him down with her car and that she even threatened to have goons come try to kill him.
The tabloids gobbled up the story, and Shannon's reputation continued to suffer, spurring People magazine to proclaim her out of control. But Shannen didn't let the disastrous relationship keep her down. Within a few months, she was ready to move on.
Ashley Hamilton is the son of the Permatan actor George Hamilton. He and Shannen met in 1993. Ashley had just gotten out of rehab. He was 19, Shannen was 22.
Shannen and Ashley had known each other just 2 weeks when they got married.
And they decided to have a BYOB wedding celebration where the only food was the cake.
I did have the sense that she was looking to get a regular, steady guy in her life and was sort of flinging caution to the wind. And not, not thinking things through, but maybe trying to grab at something. But I wonder if part of that search wasn't about, I've got to get somebody in my life that's going to help protect me and help me stay grounded, because it was a very heady experience for all of them.
Meanwhile, the ratings on 90210 continued to skyrocket, and Shannon's salary was increased from $17,500 per week to $22,000 per week. Nevertheless, tensions on set were rising, with Shannen often at the center of it.
As she became more and more famous, became almost the definition of the difficult actor.
Even Shannen herself admitted, there's no other word for it, I was an She was notoriously late and it drove producers crazy.
Shannen Doherty began to get a reputation of being kind of a prima donna. She was very outspoken and she definitely rubbed people the wrong way.
She had such conflict, especially with Jenny Garth. The two were very competitive.
If 50 people are saying you're difficult to work with, I guess you're difficult to work with.
She probably had a lack of sleep. She was out partying at clubs like LA's Roxbury at night. So she was living a wild life.
Regardless of alleged problems on set, Shannen continued to party, often with the boss's daughter, Tori Spelling, by her side.
Shannen Doherty and Tori Spelling, Aaron Spelling's daughter, were good friends, and they were going out a lot.